Welcome to Big Blue Kickoff Live, presented by Cadillac, the official luxury vehicle of the New York Football Giants. Thanks for being with us. My name is Madelyn Burke. He is the Super Bowl champion, Shaun O'Hara, with you, and the phone number is 201-939-4513, or you can find us on Twitter at #GiantsChat. As a reminder, you can find the archive of this show and our entire podcast network on the Giants mobile app, podcast platforms everywhere, and giants.com/podcast. It's Wednesday. Midweek, the Giants are about to take the practice field to start practicing for their Week 2 matchup against the Washington Commanders, first division game of the season. Before we get into it, head coach Brian Daboll is at the podium right now. He's updated on some injuries. Darius Slayton is in concussion protocol. Gunnar Olszewski is going to be out for weeks, dealing with an injury that he re-aggravated pregame on Sunday. I believe that was his groin injury. And then Nick McLeod and Darius Muasau both dealing with knee injuries, not practicing in our day-to-day. So those are the updates so far from Daboll's press conference. We'll keep you updated if he says anything else of note. But Shaun, sloppy September is upon us. Extra sloppy week 1.
Yeah. Great to see you. Last time we were together, we were trying to digest this debacle of a Week 1 season opening game at home as we celebrated the 100th season of the New York Giants and the top 100 players that were all there in attendance. So disappointing, to say the least. And yes, we referenced sloppy September on the show. That came to fruition. So how do you get that out of your system? I think just kind of looking back at the game real quick, a couple things that jumped out at me. The pre-snap penalties, that's slop. That is just sloppy. Pre-snap penalties, you can't have. They had a bunch of them. I think they had 9 total penalties, and half of them were pre-snaps. It was 12 men in the huddle. There was 2 delay of games. One of them was on a 4th and 3, and it was kind of like they were trying to get them to jump off sides. But, a delay game earlier on, false start penalties, and then holding penalties as well. So, that's the quickest way to beat yourself. So, number one, I thought that part of it was disappointing, that sloppiness. Those are things that you can fix. Those are things that they're going to address going forward. I think the biggest thing, and I'm sure you've been getting it the last couple of days, look, the firing squad is out, right? Everybody's, got their guns drawn, and they're pointing them at Daboll. They're pointing them at DJ. Look, it wasn't just them. And they take all the heat. I always used to say quarterbacks take all the blame and they get all the fame. So, look, right now they're getting all the blame. And that's just the way it is, all right? You're the highest paid coach on the team. You're the highest paid player on the team. You're catching the heat. You're catching strays, deserve it or not. I thought one of the interesting things, Madelyn, as I went back and kind of watched some of the plays, was the amount of drops. The amount of times that receivers were not in the position in the area that DJ thought they were going to be, and now the ball's behind him. Hey, I think this guy's going to sit down on this route, and he keeps running, so now the ball's behind him. Or he sits down, and I expected him to keep running. Those are all timing things. Guess how you fix that? By playing. That's not something that you could just, magically do in a walkthrough or, hey, we're going to figure that out. You just have to play, and it's game reps. Game speed is totally different. That's why you see all that, the sloppiness, and why you see the debauchery that we just went through. It looked like the Giants didn't play in the preseason. That's really what it looked like to me.
Right.
So that was across the board. And, look, it's not about preparation. They prepared. It's just about you got to go out and execute. Practice is different. Game speed is a totally different speed, and that's really where I felt like they struggled. I don't feel like the Vikings won that game. I feel like the Giants gave it to them. They lost that game because they couldn't do the easy things. They couldn't make the routine plays, to quote Mike Tomlin. Couldn't make the routine plays routine. And until you start doing that, it's going to be hard, and it's going to be ugly. And this is what we're going to be dealing with every week on a Wednesday. So as we spin it forward, I think the big thing for Giants offensively, Madelyn, is first down production is paramount. Too many times it was 3rd and 12, 3rd and 14. We had a 3rd and 26, a 2nd and 24. What is that? That's not professional football. That is ugly. And those things, it's the pre-snap penalties I mentioned about, but then first down production, you got to be in 2nd and 6. You got to be in 2nd and 5. You got to be 3rd and 2, 3rd and 3, 3rd and 4. That's how you win football games. So I think offensively that's a big part of it. And then the other thing that showed up, Madelyn, as I kind of watched some of the throws, and I'm going back, and I'm like, all right, let me just watch all of DJ's throws.
Yeah.
The protection was really good. There were times where, man, he had a 3 to 4 yard cushion, and guess what? Not a damn person was open. Like nobody. They were bracketing Malik Neighbors. They were plastering on everybody else, and there was zero separation. So we could sit here and say, DJ, you got to play better and you got to do a better job. Like, okay, but somebody's got to get open.
Well, this is why, too, we're talking about how, all summer we've been watching them throw the ball downfield and press the ball downfield, and we didn't see that in the game. It's because he's not able to get there. He's got time, but he doesn't have these receivers that are open. And, maybe they haven't developed that chemistry yet in the ability to make sure that trust factor of there, okay, if I place it here, I know you're going to be there. As we saw with some of these drop passes, it's like, okay, the timing's off. My expectation is different than yours and whatnot. But, to that point, additionally with the offense, it's like Brian Daboll said, you got to score points. And, very early on in the game, the defense put the offense in a great position. Drew Phillips forced a fumble. Bobby Okereke recovers it. The Giants are at the 20. They're in the red zone a couple minutes into the game, and they had to settle for 3 there because they weren't able to get it in. And red zone offense is something that that's what they start with in training camp. And so how does this team get the ball in the end zone? Because no matter how good your defense is, no matter how much protection you have, if you can't score a touchdown, it's going to be hard to beat even a Washington Commanders team that gave up the second most points in the league in week 1.
Yeah, I think that offensively they felt defeated. Like if the defense gives you the ball on a short field, man, we're on the 20 already. Like we got to get a touchdown. And if you settle for a field goal, you walk off the sideline. I think the defense is kind of like, really? Like we hand fed you that touchdown. We basically gave you points, and all you could do was kick a field goal. So that definitely is a little bit demoralizing. And I think that's where the offense, you've got to come out there and you've got to capitalize on that. The challenge for like Daniel Jones and the receivers is, aside from the timing, it's okay. We have to play to what they're doing defensively. So, look, Brian Flores he's a blitz first guy. Like that's kind of his mindset. He wants to bring pressure.
He wasn't sending it as much as
he didn't,
as he usually does.
Yeah. So he didn't blitz, and I think he looked at it and like he said, look, it's week 1. I'm not going to put my guys in a disadvantageous position. I'm not going to blitz guys, and now we're in man coverage. And Malik Neighbors breaks a tackle and goes 66 yards for a touchdown. Like, I'm not going to let that happen. Smart on his point. And you know what? I think that Daboll expected that, as much as they did bring some wrinkled pressures and wrinkled blitzes later on. But it was, look, we're not going to give up the big play. We don't think you can go 14 plays without messing up and get a touchdown drive. So it was basically like, hey, let's just play coverage. They played cover 3. They played 2-man. They played coverage, and then they rushed 4. And it wasn't even like, hey, man, we're getting beat. Guys are getting beat. It was nobody's getting open, and now Daniel's got to hold on to the ball a little bit longer than he would have liked, and now we saw him kind of navigating the pocket, scrambling, running around a little bit. Those are things that, look, he's going to have to find a way to beat these defenses. If teams, Washington's watching the film right now, Dan Quinn saying, look, they couldn't beat cover 3. Guess what Dan Quinn made his name in the NFL for in Seattle? Running the cover 3 defense. So until you could put that fire out, until you could prove to people that you can beat and you can win against that defense, that's what you're going to see. So I'm sure DQ is looking at this and saying, hey, they struggled with this. Nobody could get open. There was no separation. And he didn't have time. By the time that somebody did uncover, he was getting some pressure, or he got out of the pocket a little bit premature. So those are things that I'm sure they're going to face next week. And, look, today's Wednesday. So just to kind of give the fans and everybody at home listening and watching, Wednesday is like the biggest part of your install for the next week. So as a player, all right, Monday, come in, correct it, flush it. Tuesday, recharge your battery, get ready to rock and roll. Wednesday, you're coming in here rolling. Like we used to lift at 7 a.m., meeting started at 8:15. Boom, here are the Washington Commanders. Here's what they do best. Here's their defense. Here's their offense. Here's what they did last week. And you just start wrapping your head around, all right, forget about Minnesota, forget about their defense, the front. This is totally different. What are the tendencies? What are we doing? And look, there's plenty of film and there's plenty of stuff out there on Dan Quinn and what he likes to do defensively.
Yeah. Well, and speaking of creating separation, though, despite the fact that it struggled to do that, Malik Neighbors still led all rookies, not just the Giants, but all rookies in the NFL with 66 receiving yards in week 1. And 50 of those 66 yards came on third down, too. So as much as they want to say, okay, let's get some better first down plays and not be sitting in third and long and all that, the fact that they were able to get it to him, leading the team in third down receiving yards is another point to hang your hat on. The kids are all right, right? The rookies, this draft class, had some impact plays in that first game. I mentioned the Drew Phillips fumble force. Darius Moasow had an interception. Malik Neighbors making some plays. Tyler Nubin, the safety out of Minnesota, all over the place. So things to build on. But like you said, if the offense can't create some separation and get the ball to their receivers, it's going to be tough. Going against the Commanders team, they're coming off a game in which they gave up 37 points. It's the most in the NFL, or the second most by any team in week one. And the Giants scored just 6 points in week one. That's the fewest. So which one's going to level out? Are the Giants going to find their rhythm against a defense that has been struggling? Or are the Commanders going to get right against a Giants team that's offense is struggling? And this is also an interesting point because this is a team that Daniel Jones in his career in 7 starts against the Commanders has won 5 of them, 5-1-1 against Washington. Kayvon Thibodeau has had a sack every time he's played the Commanders. This is a team, when you're a player and you know, obviously, different ownership, different coaching staff, but the jersey is the same. Is there some sort of mental, like, I do well in this environment?
I think it's got to come down to confidence, right?
Yeah.
So why is it that all of a sudden you're playing a certain team, the Washington Commanders in this case, that, man, we always seem to play them well. Well, look, they haven't been a great team, which is why they're on another coaching, they fired a coach last year. They totally revamped and overhauled the entire staff. So they're in a little bit of transition. But I think the confidence has to be a factor in that. And it's like, hey, you know what? All right, we know we can do this. We know the one thing that I feel like over the last couple of years is we knew we were going to run the ball well against them. Saquon always had some monster games. DJ, I felt like, was able to take advantage of some of the defensive schemes and the things they did defensively with his legs. But this is a great opportunity for them. And you mentioned divisional game, first divisional game of the season. It's big. And I think the fact that they're facing a rookie quarterback in Jaden Daniels, you're in a perfect position, perfect situation to start out fast. Like anytime we're on the road, one of the things you want to do, you want to start fast, all right? You want to run the football. Like if you can run the football on the road, that helps out immensely offensively because now you're in third and short, second and short. You can kind of take the crowd out of it a little bit. And then, defensively get some takeaways. Well, the Giants, you mentioned it with the takeaways. I mean, they had 31 takeaways last year, which was one of the best in the league. Mm-hmm. And they picked up right where they left off. So that's huge. The rookie's going to make some mistakes. He's going to make some throws. There are going to be some balls that he's going to throw that he has no business throwing. You got to capitalize on it. You can't drop the ball. You got to make those interceptions. And I think put the pressure on him early. If you can go out and score on the opening drive, and now he feels like, all right, I've got to make something happen early. That's when young guys start to press. So this should be a good setup, for the Giants defense too. The biggest challenge for them is Jaden Daniels can run. He is super athletic. So how do we get pressure? 2 rushing
touchdowns last week for Jaden Daniels.
Keep him in the pocket.
Yeah.
That's something that I know Shane Bowen is, that's probably got to be in the forefront of his mind right now is, all right, look, we got to contain this guy. They've got some weapons. Mm-hmm. Terry McLaurin didn't have a monster game, but he's a stud. And I'm sure Jaden's going to be looking for him. But this is paramount right now. This kid has some wheels. He's got some legit speed. He's super athletic, and anytime that happens, you gotta be defensively. You got to be on point with your coverage because as soon as that scramble drill happens and he gets outside the pocket, that's when coverages break down.
Yeah, and especially looking at the way that the Giants defense played week one and the run defense struggled at times going against a quarterback as mobile as Jaden Daniels is. That's going to be a point of emphasis. And, he's no stranger, though. Malik Neighbors, Jaden Daniels, college teammates, LSU, quarterback, wide receiver right there. And they, had a little friendly competition over who's going to have a better rookie year. I know the competition's going to be high and a lot to look forward to. But we've got some callers on the phone lines right here we got to get into. But first, want to make sure to remind you, go and subscribe to the Giants Huddle podcast. It features long-form interviews with Giants players, coaches, and front office staff past and present. Plus, hear from the best analysts covering Big Blue and the NFL. Search for Giants Huddle and subscribe on your favorite podcast platform or go to giants.com/podcast. And don't forget, if you're on Apple Podcasts, leave a 5-star positive review for all our Giants podcasts. 201-939-4513 is the phone number. Let's head to line 1. Travis in Queens has been holding the longest. Travis, you're on BBK with Shaun and Madelyn.
Hey, guys. How you guys doing?
Doing well.
Great.
How you doing, Travis?
Okay. Very good. So this is my issue, right? Shaun, I remember when we got Andrew Thomas, right? And he was on, and it was like, we was calling worried, like, yo, do you think he's the guy? Now, your line to me was when I asked you, you was like, trust me, he's going to be fine. And you was And looking back now, you was 100% correct, right? You said that because of something that you've seen in him, right? My problem is that with Daniel Jones, it's that there's nothing. It's been 6 years. He doesn't give any hope. Like, okay, he had success against Washington. He has their number. When he had their number, he had one of the best running backs in the game on his team. So that helped out immensely. Now he doesn't have that. It's just him. I have no hope. I'm really done with Daniel. He was my guy. I'm telling you, I'm done because it's the same thing. Like, okay, in this first game, he gave nothing. Like, see, like you take a quarterback like from the Bengals, Joe Burrow, right? Like Joe Burrow had no offensive line, but he still made plays. He still made things happen. Here it is. Like this is, he's not our guy. I like you guys try to protect him and say, you know what I mean, it's not all on him and try to give him an out. But we really got to start. Like it's over. And I'm sorry to say, like, there's nothing. His game doesn't reflect anything like for the future that you could look forward to. There's nothing. When Mara said it about Eli Manning, he said, I knew that he had their quarterback in the game when I think it was against Philly, I believe, and he said how when they lost, Eli, his his decision making and stuff that he did, let him know down the line we're gonna be okay. I like what I seen. With Daniel, I think the ship sailed. It's almost like he stole money because of that Vikings win. It was like, because that's what he got paid off of. Honestly, I believe so. Was that Vikings winning the playoff when we looked at it like next year? But it's fool's gold, and I think it's over with Daniel Jones.
Thanks so much for the call, Travis. Appreciate you taking the time. I mean, there's definitely a lot of frustration. I can see that. And Shaun, I mean, we've all had bad days at the office, and I think Daniel Jones is going to be the first to say that wasn't his best performance.
Yeah, and I guess Travis, listen, man, I appreciate the call, appreciate everything you're saying. I appreciate you pulling out the receipts on Andrew Thomas. Here's the thing: I hope I never play golf with Travis, because if I bogey the first hole of the game and he's already packing up the clubs, he's like, I'm headed to the clubhouse. That's it.
Yeah.
This round sucks. I don't want to golf with you, Travis. No, we got a bogey. Maybe even a double bogey on the first hole. All right. There's 17 more holes to play. Right. So let's focus on the next shot. All right. Let's tee it up and let's pipe it down the middle. I think DJ will, he'll be the first one to say, look, he was spraying off the tee. That first hole, things got a little wild. Things were a little out. But to Travis and to all the Giants fans out there that feel that same way, look, you're entitled to your opinion, and I get it. And we love the passion as players. Love the passion. If you're booing us, you're cheering us, it's because you care. So we love that, and we embrace that, and we understand that. The one thing that I will say is, to Giants fans, what was your expectation? What was your expectation on a quarterback playing the very first live action game? Preseason doesn't count. First game back from an ACL injury. For anybody that's never gone through an ACL injury, it is a horrific injury, and it's a gruesome rehab. Mm-hmm. So you brought up Joe Burrow, and look, I probably should have gone back and looked at Joe Burrow's stats. The year after he blew his ACL out, right? He got hurt his rookie year, I think it was. Comes into his second year, dude. He didn't light it up. He didn't look great. Anybody that tears their ACL will tell you that I didn't feel 100% like myself until a year and a half, maybe 2 years. So the expectations of Giants fans, I'm really curious. What were your expectations coming in this game? Did you think Daniel Jones was going to throw for 350 yards and 4 touchdowns? Since we brought up Joe Burrow, and you said, man, he came in, he didn't have a great offensive line. You're right. He didn't have a great offensive line. Guess what? Daniel Jones would settle for not having a great offensive line throughout his career. He's had one of the worst O-lines. If you go back and look at his career with the Giants, he has had some of the worst O-line play in the history of any quarterback through those 6 years. Last year, the Giants gave up 88 sacks. In 5 games last year, he was sacked 28 times. So, there's a totally different dynamic with that. the biggest difference between Joe Burrow and Daniel Jones is Joe Burrow was throwing to Jamar Chase. Joe Burrow had Tyler Boyd and T. Higgins. Malik Neighbors, and I'm not trying to disrespect any other receiver that has played with Daniel Jones throughout his career. Malik Neighbors is his first number one legit receiver that he's played with. So let's see what that looks like. Let's get that out. That was Malik Neighbors' first game in the NFL too. I'm sure there were some jitters. He had a drop early on in the game as well. There were a number of drops in that game. So I understand that people are, they're burning their Daniel Jones jersey for the second time. They did it a couple years ago. I will try to refresh everyone's memory. Daniel Jones, when he was healthy, he scored 4 touchdowns in a game right here at MetLife Stadium that the Giants had to win to secure a playoff spot. Threw for 2, ran for 2, and he took the game over. And then he went into Minnesota and beat Kirk Cousins and Justin Jefferson with Isaiah Hodgins as his number one receiver. Went on the road and won a playoff game. Okay, so that is who Daniel Jones can be. Now, you're saying that they saw something in Eli. Look, we all saw something in DJ in that moment. Here's what it looks like when you have a functional offense, when you have a good offensive line, when you have a run game. This is what it can look like. We're not there yet. Mm-hmm. This was his first game back from a major injury. Did Aaron Rodgers look like he was 100% on point? He looked a little bit, immobile. How about Kirk Cousins coming off of his Achilles injury? He didn't look great either. This is sloppy September, but it's also that was the first game coming off of a gruesome injury, which he's never had to deal with in his entire career. He's never had a season-ending injury like that. He had the neck injury earlier on, but nothing like that to his legs, which that's one of his big weapons is his ability to run. So yeah. I just want to, I know it's tough. It's tough to tell Giants fans to be patient because I feel like we've been saying that, Madelyn, for a long time, and I understand we're running out of patience pills in that bottle. We could see the bottom of it at this point. So I get that aspect of it, but don't throw in the towel here. I have a Super Bowl ring from 2007. We started out 0-2. Guess what it said on the New York Post after we lost to Green Bay at home? That Monday morning when we came in, the back page of the New York Post was, Eli's a bust, Tom must go. That was in year 4 of Eli. So in Eli's 4th year, people were ready to throw him out the door. So, look, I understand Daniel, it's his 6th year, but when you kind of look at what's going on around him, it's not all his fault. And your comment about the money, just stop with the money thing.
Yeah, we're not pocket watching.
We're all stealing. Every player in the NFL is overpaid. Quarterbacks are just more overpaid than everybody else. But that's the going rate. And I challenge Giants fans to go out there and find me another quarterback that you would have rather paid than what we have in Daniel Jones right now.
Well, and you mentioned Eli Manning, and it's funny because Giants fans will look back through rose-colored glasses at the nostalgia of how great the Eli Manning years were, and they were fantastic. You got 2 Super Bowls, 2 Super Bowl MVPs, but like you just pointed out, there were moments where the back page of the New York Post and Giants fans were frustrated and disappointed, and that's just fandom, and that's just football. There are highs and lows, and the Giants are not unique in being the only team in the NFL that had a disappointing loss in week 1. 16 teams lost in week 1, and many of those teams were not expecting to lose in the way they did. Do you think the Bengals were expecting to lose to the Patriots in week 1? Do you think, some of these teams, do you think the Jets were expecting to have that performance in week 1? There are a lot of teams that are frustrated, and it is just week 1. And the fortunate thing is that this isn't college football. This is the NFL, and there are 18 games, and losing one doesn't end your season. So, like I said, a lot of ball game left. But Giants fans, if you're going to be fans, you're going to take your fandom to the next level with a season ticket membership. Stay connected to the club all year round, not just on game days. Memberships are now available for the 2024 season. To learn more about all the exclusive member benefits, visit giants.com/tickets. Limited inventory is available. Back to the phone lines, 201-939-4513. We got Tim in Charleston on the line. Tim, how's it going?
Good. Hey, Madelyn. Hey, Shaun. I usually call him when Shaun and Matt are on, but Madelyn, it's great to have you back. And Shaun, this is, I think, the first time I've ever called him when you've been on, and it's an honor and a pleasure, sir. All the niceties being put aside, that was obviously a brutal first game. But, I mean, I've been a strong supporter of Daniel, and I'm not giving up on him. There were 5 drops, but, probably 5 passes where he missed the guy. Now, maybe a couple of them were the guy extended the route or stopped or whatever, but 3 of them were short within 5 yards, basically an extension of the running game, and he threw it at their feet. So that's got to get cleaned up. I mean, this Washington team, we've got to beat. And all kidding aside, even if we lose, it's got to be a close, tough loss. We can't. If this team rolls over us, I'm giving up, honestly. But Shaun, I got a question for you, leaning to your senior level of expertise at the O-line. Overall and individually, what did you think of the O-line play in Game 1? And thank you both, and I'll take your answers off the air and go Giants.
Thanks so much for the call, Tim.
All right, Tim from Charleston. Charleston's blowing up, by the way. Beautiful city. Had a chance to go there years ago. Gorgeous down there, especially this time of year, I'm sure. Golfer's paradise not too far from there if anybody wants to go down to Kiowa Island. A lot of great golf down there. So shameless plug for Kiowa right there.
Brought to you by Kiowa Island Travel.
Yeah. Listen, the offensive line play I thought was much improved from what we saw the previous year. And look, there are 5 sacks that go towards the offensive line's resume in this game. And I always feel like that's always such a tricky stat because it's not always on the offensive line. Sometimes it's a tight end, sometimes it's a hot route. There were multiple times where there was an unblocked defender and Daniel Jones was trying to get rid of the ball and nobody broke hot. So it's like the offensive line picked up their guys. DJ knows this guy's coming hot. He's waiting for the slot receiver to break hot, and he doesn't break. So now, all right, now I got to get out of this somehow, get out of this fine mess that I found myself in. So I thought the offensive line played pretty darn well. And I thought the one thing that really I think needs to be, the improvement needs to show dramatically from week 1 to week 2 is in the run game. That has to be a staple of this offense. Like, this offense is not built to throw the ball 45 times a game. Like if we're going to throw the ball 45 times a game, it's going to be a long year. And that's not how you're going to win in the NFC East. You have to find a way to run the ball. You have to find a way to be physical up front and take the fight to the defense. There's plenty of time and opportunity to throw the football. But I thought Jermaine Illuminor, I thought he had a great game. A couple plays that I think he would like back. He gave up pressure on one play. I thought Andrew Thomas, he looked elite again. His technique is phenomenal. There was a sack, and it was actually a delayed TE twist, which is where the tackle kind of rushes on the outside shoulder of the guard, and the defensive end starts to rush up and then comes in late underneath. And that was the one sack in the game. And the challenge with that is the left guard and the left tackle have to be on the same page. And Runyon and AT were not on the same level, so it was almost impossible to pass that twist off. But I thought that they did a pretty good job. There was a couple holding penalties. Greg Van Roten, I think, got called for a holding penalty, which really wasn't his fault. John Michael Schmitz kind of got backdoored, and I think Van Roten was trying to save the day. So those are all things that they can definitely clean up, but they looked much more functional. Like last year, it was just dysfunctional. They were in disarray. There were guys whiffing. There were unblocked guys in the run game and the passing game. I didn't see that. I saw a much more cohesive unit. And look, Madelyn kind of touched on it earlier. Like, you will see a dramatic improvement from every team in the NFL from week 1 to week 2. Like week 1, people are struggling to block. They're struggling to tackle. You're kind of knocking off some of the rust. So you will see a dramatic improvement. But I expect to see a big improvement in the run game. And I think that will help out with everything that you're trying to do offensively. You can add wrinkles off of that. You can add different kinds of play action passes from that. So I think that, there was definitely improvement in there. They can still get a heck of a lot better, that's for sure. But I like what I saw from that group in their first game.
Well, and to bring back your golf analogy, too, you don't take strokes off your game on the driving range. You take strokes off your game on the golf course. And so they've been out there on the driving range and the practice field going against each other in pads and shells and walk-through speed and whatnot. But in an actual game on the course, in live game action, it's like, okay, here's where we can actually adjust and here's where we can actually see the things that we need to point out and address those in the practice field this week as they start to prepare for week 2.
All right, so for golfers, know that like one of the best ways to shave strokes is on the putting green.
Exactly, because you drive for show and you putt for dough.
There you go. Now you got it. But the putting green is like the red zone offense.
Exactly.
Like you want to win games, like punch it in the red zone, like get it in. Same thing with putting, like get it there. Like it took me 2 strokes to go 200 yards or 250, and it took me 3 strokes to get the ball in on the hole from the green. That's not good golf.
Yeah, just go to your home. Why don't you want to go to your home?
You're too good for your home.
Big Blue Golf Live continues, 201-939-4513 as we go back to the phone lines. Vinny in Connecticut, you're on with Shaun and Madelyn. Vinny, how's it going?
I'm doing well, Madelyn. How you doing, Shaun?
Hey, doing well. How are you?
I'm good. Hey, listen, a couple of things. I love that question that you asked earlier. What was our expectation as a Giants fan? And I went into this first game not expecting them to win. My expectation was just play competitively, just look functional, move the ball down the field, score a touchdown or 2. And it just didn't happen. So, I've been a Daniel Jones fan since day one. Big supporter. I'm at it with my brother-in-law who's a Giants fan, but he can't stand Jones, and him and I go at it constantly. And I feel defeated after, this game Sunday. I don't blame him completely, but it's easy for those that don't like him to put it all on him. I do believe Daboll had a role in this. I don't think the play calling was very good. But I thought Wilson, who called in yesterday, I love it when he calls in. He's hysterical. But when he called in yesterday, I thought he made a very good point, and this has been my feeling as well. I just wonder if Daniel is, and this is what Wilson had said yesterday. He said he's mentally broken, and I kind of almost lean that way. I do worry about Jones's mental state because physically, if we look at the guy physically, he's got better physical traits than Phil Simms ever did or Eli Manning. He is the perfect specimen for a quarterback. He can run, he's mobile, and we can never get that out of Phil or Eli, okay? Anytime Phil or Eli ran with the ball, we're all holding our breath. Oh, my God, there he's running, okay? And you know what I'm saying. Every Giant fan understands
slow motion.
That. Well, right, it's so bad. I used to throw my slippers at the television saying, my grandmother can run faster than you, okay? But with DJ, that's not an issue. This guy is mobile. He does a lot with his legs. And in the beginning, he was, I loved his first year. The problem was the fumbles, but he corrected that. And I really had a lot of hopes for him. And I'm not giving up on him, but I have to be honest. I kind of believe this is all mental. It is all mental with him. And I don't know if you snap out of that. I don't know if you need, I just don't know. I just want your thoughts on that. And before I get your thoughts on this, one other point too. Thibodeau and Burns were just non-existent yesterday, and that just can't be. We had such high hopes for them to put a pass rush on, and there was just nothing going on there. So I liked your observations on that. What do you think happened there? Because that's got to improve too. Otherwise, we're in for a very long season once again. So I just love your thoughts on all of that.
Thanks for the call, Vinny.
Yeah, Vinny. So really kind of two things to address there. I think we'll start with the Daniel Jones thing. I think DJ is about as mentally tough as it gets out there. And I think that was actually one of the attributes that the Giants liked in him when they selected him 6th overall. He played at Duke. He didn't have NFL offensive linemen. He didn't have NFL offensive receivers. And yet he found a way to lead that team to a bowl game while he was getting hit, while he was getting harassed. Like, he elevated the play of everybody down at Duke. And I think that's kind of what they saw from him. They saw that grit. I don't look at Daniel and see, oh, man, this is a guy that's broken. Like, there was a very poignant moment a couple of years ago when they won that game. I think it was against the Colts at home. And he goes up to Nick Gates and he's like, hey, man, congrats. Like, hey, we're in the playoffs. Like, we've been tortured long enough is kind of what he said. And, like, that was kind of his, like, hey, man, like, I've been dealing with this basically, since my second year, right, when he took over for Eli, his rookie year, like all of a sudden that first game down in Tampa, he rushed for a touchdown. They won the game. Like things were great, and you kind of have a different feeling about a young quarterback. You give him a little more leeway, a little more leash, a little more patience. Now I think people are to the point like, hey man, we want to see things come to fruition now. Like, all right, we've been sitting on this investment. Like now it's time for some ROI. I think for DJ, he understands listen, this is where it is. And maybe he grew the beard because he wanted people to know, like, he looks a little bit like, like Stallone in Cobra now with the beard. Like, I think he did that. Like, man, I'm going to battle, and this is going to be a long season. I don't think DJ's the kind of guy that's going to lay down because I had a bad game or, hey, we lost week 1. Like, no. Let's roll the sleeves up and let's go to work. So as much as people used to bash Eli, like, man, this guy's got, he's like vanilla ice cream. We can't get anything out of him. We can't get any emotion out of him. Like, there's just that boom. That's by design. Mm-hmm. And DJ's got that too. Like, look, when I stand up at the podium, I'm not going to tell you what I really feel and what I think because that's not important. Like, I tell that to my teammates and I go out there on the practice field. But for me to get up here and do that, that's not who I am. And that's by design. DJ's like that by design. But, dude, this guy's gristled. Like, I don't underestimate him. So it's not blind faith by me saying that, and it's not blind faith by the coaches. And they see him in practice. They see him make all those throws. He didn't make them. Like, you know what? It's like a jump shot, a guy that's shooting threes. Like, you know what? You're clanking some off the rim. Keep shooting. All right? Keep firing. Like, it's going to come together. It's going to look better. Are they going to, run the table now and all of a sudden things are all better? No, but I do agree with you that the expectation was I wanted to see functional football too. I wanted to see good football. I wanted to see them come out and compete. Did I expect him to throw for 300 yards and 3 touchdowns? No, I didn't. But I didn't expect it to look that bad. And not all losses are the same. If you play a good game as a team and you lose on a field goal at the end of the game, like, okay, you know what? We lost the game, we didn't win, but we did some good things. That's a different feeling than what we all experienced this Sunday. It was we lost the game and we didn't look good. Like we looked sloppy, we looked messy. It left everybody with a bad taste in their mouth. I understand that. Yeah. Spinning it forward to the defense, the one thing, and we talked about this on the postgame show. All right, where were Burns? Like Burns, he made a couple plays here and there. There was a lot of like almost sacks, and he was like one step away from making a big play. And Thibodeau, really was kind of a non-factor statistically speaking.
He had one quarterback hit on the stat sheet.
Right.
Yeah.
So, all right, where is the impact? And everybody wants to see that. Well, the one thing that I will remind everybody is the Minnesota Vikings have 2 of the best tackles in the league right now. Mm-hmm. Christian Darrisaw looks like Walter Jones out there. And I'm talking about physically. I'm not trying to compare his accolades. And Walter Jones is one of the best left tackles to ever play the game. But Walter Jones was a long torso guy, squat body legs. Christian Darrisaw is built just like that. Mm-hmm. Like, I mean, his feet might be 2 feet. I mean, from ankles to hips might be 2.5 to 3 feet. So he's built low to the ground.
Low man wins.
He's a tough son of a gun. And I think when you look at Brian O'Neill on the right side, he's one of the better right tackles in the league too. They both have been doing it a long time. I thought they both played really well against them, and I thought that was one of the big challenges. This week will be a little bit different. Andrew Wiley playing right tackle, and I think with this offensive line now with a rookie quarterback for the Commanders, it's going to look a little bit different. So I would be shocked if I don't see at the end of the game, hey man, Thibodeau had a bunch of quarterback hits. Burns in the backfield, tackles for a loss. Like I think that production is coming, but that was a part of it too. It wasn't that these guys are no good. It's sometimes those guys get paid really well too because they're pretty darn good.
Yeah, absolutely. 201-939-4513. We got a couple more calls on the line. Marty in Manahawkin, you're on the line. Marty,
yeah.
How's it going?
Hey, Madelyn, how you doing? Shaun, how are you?
What's up, Marty?
Well, thanks for calling.
Yeah, no problem. Couple of observations. I mean, Shaun would probably be able to give me a little better insight, but I kind of thought that Illuminor, I thought he kind of disengaged, what was his name, Van Ginkel, a little too early, and that's how he ended up with that gift of a interception. I think he should have stuck with him a little longer instead of, letting him go. I mean, I think Shaun might have noticed that.
Yeah, he didn't touch him. I mean, he didn't disengage. He never engaged.
Yeah,
he never even touched him.
Van Ginkel just kind of waited. He didn't even. Yeah.
Yeah. So no, this is a good play to kind of break down, and because it's a go screen, right? So it's a quick throw, and Matt and I were talking about this on the postgame show. Your right tackle in that instance, you have two options. You can either go and cut the guy and get his hands down so he doesn't knock the ball down, or even if you run block at him and you just engage him like you were talking about, now all of a sudden he's tied up by the tackle and he maybe can't get in the throwing lane. So, look, that was not Daniel Jones' fault. It was not Wanda Robinson's fault. That play 9 times out of 10 gets completed, or the one time it doesn't it gets batted down. Rarely do you see it get intercepted the way that Van Ginkel did and take it to the house. And, he's the poster child now, and everybody, he's on Good Morning Football. Like, he's like the,
Well, especially because he did essentially the same thing last year when he was with Miami Dolphins.
Yeah. So he's got a knack for this. He's got a special set of skills, if you will, Liam Neeson. I think when you look at that play, Jermaine Illuminor actually takes a vertical set, so he just sets back. So I'm not sure what the coaching point was on that, and I'm not sure what his actual role was and what his job was, but I know when I played the right tackle, if we're running, or the left tackle, whatever side you're running the go screen on, it's the tackle's job or the tight end's job to at least engage, block, cut that front side defender so that he can't ruin the play like that. So, I'm not trying to, put anybody on blast, but that's what I saw, and that's how I would correct it. If we're going to run that play against Washington, my right tackle, you've got to go get that guy. Like, you got to go impact him. Like, you got to make him think about you, cut him, engage, do something. Don't just stand there, and don't let him stand there and jump up and disrupt the play.
Yeah, I thought too. I was watching the interviews in the locker room, and I kind of thought Kayvon was a little terse with Bob Papa. I mean, Bob Papa's been around a while.
I think it was Jordan Renaud.
Yeah, it was ESPN's Jordan Renaud. Bob Papa was not in there.
He would never do that to Papa either, by the way.
Yeah, Bob Papa doesn't go into the locker room for post-game interviews.
Yeah, but BP's the man.
Yeah.
Yeah. But yes, I think it was Jordan Renaud that he was a little short with.
Yeah, it was, but my other thing too that has me a little annoyed, and I hate the land-based people, but one of the beat reporters really lambasted the Giant fans who were waiting outside the exit for where the players come out, and he was lambasting them for being there and yelling at the players. The people that pay big money for seats and for parking and stuff, and I mean, that's not your place to yell at the fans for doing that. The fans are emotional too. They want to win just as much as the team does.
Well, Marty, I'll jump in there too, because I also made that point, and I will say that yes, it's fair, and like Shaun has said earlier in the show, players love to hear you cheer and boo because it shows you're emotionally invested. But the thing is the area between walking out of security to the parking lot is open to fans for autographs from players. And doesn't have to be. That's something that is something the Giants do to give fans that access and that interaction with the players. And so I think Art Stapleton was talking about this on social media, and I made a point too. It's if players are going to show up to that circumstance that doesn't have to be open to fans, and treat players that way, that is going to be an instance in which they might say, well, maybe we shouldn't open this to fans, and then that could take that privilege away from fans who genuinely just want to meet their favorite players or have a chance to take a photo or get an autograph or things like that. So that is the point. And yes, these guys are professionals and they're paid athletes and they have thick skin and whatnot. And it is hard to see that, somebody's coming out of a hard day at work and, imagine you've had a bad day at the office and you're walking to your car and you got everyone you've ever met and then people you haven't just booing you on your way to the car. It's like, all right, I heard it. I know I bombed in there. But it's especially when you think about from a security standpoint, it's like, yes, players are frustrated and booing, but if that's where it is now and if that's going to continue to escalate, that might be something that the team might say, hey, we don't need to have this open to fans.
Yeah, I fully expect that won't be the case next time. We're not going to subject our guys to this harassment. And, to your point, we appreciate your call. Look, absolutely. You have the right to boo. You boo the performance, boo on the field. Like, when you get outside the stadium, like, okay, now you no longer get that right to say, hey, I paid to come to this game. I paid for my ticket. I get to yell at you and say whatever I want. Like, that doesn't, you can't just, go earmuffs and then just, you got to say earmuffs if you want to, use the expletives. But I think there also there's a little bit of a line. Like, guess what? If you're upset and a player, they're walking out of the stadium. Hey, you know what? Like, you're throwing some jabs out there. Like, there's a difference between like booing somebody and being vicious. And I think that like the line has blurred there. Like, to quote the Big Lebowski, like, you're not wrong, Walter. You're just an asshole. Like that. Like there's a way to do it and not be that, and then there's a way to be that. So
Right.
I think that, look, no player would ever really take unbelievable offense if, hey man, these guys they're hard on me. They're hard on us, and you know what? It's like if Daniel Jones is out to dinner, if he's out to dinner Hoboken, is it okay that a fan can come up to him and start yelling at him while he's out to dinner? Like, no, that walk to your car, like, yes, you're still technically at the stadium, but like the game's over with. Like, all right, what are we doing here? Like, we're not animals in the zoo here, right? So I think there's got to be a little bit of a human element to it at some point as well. Look, fans are going to try to justify. I actually think it was Art Stapleton that tweeted out,
Yep.
like, hey, look, like, we've got to be better. I think both sides can be better, right? Like, look, Daniel Jones can play better. The players can play better. Fans can be better too. Like, just because you have the option or just because you have the right to yell and say whatever you want doesn't mean you should.
Right. Exactly. And it's, I think Daniel Jones, it's not that he doesn't know that it was a disappointing performance. It's not that
he's
his
mad.
team doesn't know.
He's just as mad as they are.
Exactly. And it is valid for you to feel frustrated and express that in appropriate situations and settings. But there are certain settings in which that it becomes, not just inappropriate, but also something that could affect the fan experience for other fans. And this is, a select few fans that are using this privilege that they have of this access to these players in this very intimate setting in a way that might cause that privilege to be rescinded.
Yeah, and you know what? Like, just to kind of put a cherry on top of all this stuff, the thing that really bothers me about that kind of stuff is the kids.
Right.
Like, there are kids that are out there and they want the autograph. They want to meet Malik Neighbors. They want to meet Daniel Jones. They want to, these are their idols. Like, these are NFL players. And for adult fans, you've got a different perspective on this. Like, I paid good money. This is, my hard-earned money, my PSLs, and I'm coming here and this is costing me all this stuff. And that is where your mind is. These kids, that's not where their mind is at. And so now you got a kid over there with a football out, and you got this guy over here yelling all kinds of profanities and all this stuff. And then they see that, and now they think, oh, is that the way I'm supposed to act? No, it's not. Yeah. So I don't like that kids are seeing that, and then now they think that it's okay to do that or to put somebody on blast. And I don't like that. I think that's a bad look. And we can all be better. I think, when you get to that point, like, the mob mentality starts to kind of set in, and one guy says it, and then now everybody's doing the whole thing, and it's tough to see. The biggest way to fix that is to win.
Yeah.
And look, nobody was more disappointed in that game and the performance than Daniel Jones. I'm sure he drafted himself number 1 overall in his fantasy league. So I'm sure he's upset that he lost in the game and that he didn't help himself and give him any points in his fantasy league.
Yeah. Not great fantasy performance, but you know what? That's why you live to see another game. And like I said, the same players that you're booing and you're frustrated with this week are the same ones you're going to be cheering for when things turn around and those wins come. So let's keep it all in perspective.
Look,
come with that same energy.
Yeah, if you're going to boo and you're going to be in the parking lot, like, throwing shade and throwing strays, then you better be in there when they win, and you better be giving them some love too. So you can't have it one way or the other.
Exactly. 201-939-4513 is the phone number. Let's get back to the phone lines. Chris in Verona. Chris, you're on Big Blue Kickoff Live with Shaun and Madelyn.
Hey, Shaun. Hey, Madelyn. Big fans. How are you guys?
Good.
Great.
Thanks for calling.
You're welcome. Well, I was at the game on Sunday, and I'm a season ticket holder as well. Shaun, to answer your expectation question earlier, how about a touchdown, man? We were the only team in the NFL not to get a touchdown last week. And for the entire offseason, I mean, we were pumped. We were ready to go, seeing these big signings, everything. A lot on the defensive side, some on the offensive side. But we had expectations to come out and not look like literally the worst team in the NFL. I mean, Carolina Panthers scored a touchdown. Please. Also, don't agree with what the people did after the game there to Danny, but I mean, that's the frustration level right now. And again, he's the leader of the team, so we got to see more from him. And it was just unfortunate. I get the analogy. Hey, have you ever had a bad day at the office? But you can't have a bad day at the office when your CEO's coming through for a big visit, you know? This was such an important game for us to win because let me tell you the the implications from a fan's perspective. Everybody in that stadium is selling their tickets for Cowboys, all right? That's going to be a hostile environment because nobody wants to pay the money to go see them play like the way they did. So even if we pull that win off in Washington next week, which I think we still will because the team is so fired up and embarrassed right now, Browns are going to be a tough row for us. And then we have a Thursday night at Dallas that is going to be a Dallas home game. And I'm dreading going to that game. I swear to God, hand to God right now, I'm not selling my tickets. I'm going, and I would never sell them to a Dallas fan. But I can tell you right now that's going to be a hostile environment. And if they start off the way they did last week, I mean, it's going to be booze straight through that entire game. So it's not just that game that's messed up now. Now we're looking far down into the season. And, again, from a fan's perspective, which I think is an important, that home field advantage is true. Yeah. When you have a home team rocking, it's hard to run an offense in that. And we can rock in that stadium. I've been there when that stadium is rocking. But for them to come out so flat and show us, there was no fire. No fire from any of the players. No fire from the coach on the sidelines. There was no passion in that game. And at least you can come and play your butts off and come with passion and, look pissed off about what's happening. Danny, slam an iPad down on the sideline. Let me see something from you.
That's a valid point. Yeah.
Well, listen, that's what we see, and that's what I'm seeing. I go to a ton of games a year, and yes, it is an expense, but it's one I'm willing to pay because of the joy that I get. It's a family thing, right? The joy that I get with the family. I bring my kids to the games. I go with my dad to the games. We bring all these different people, and we want the all-good feeling experience. When you're walking out of there after a loss, I got to tell you, I don't care who I'm there with. It's a silent ride home, especially
Amen.
The way we got beat down. All right, so listen, go Giants, but we got to see more, and we got to win the next two games because if we don't, that Thursday night game against Dallas is not going to be good. I'm telling you right now. Call me whatever you want, pessimist or whatever, but I've been around long enough to know, oh man, we got to win. Go Giants.
That's a great point, Chris, especially when it comes to tickets. And I respect the real oneness of saying I will not in any circumstance sell my tickets to a Cowboys fan. But he's right. Fans do get deterred by showing up if the product isn't good. And like I said, it is valid to express those frustrations. Just pick your spots in the appropriate places.
Yeah, thanks for the call, Chris. I thought that was great. It was great insight. And I agree with you. Dude, I was expecting touchdowns too, plural.
Yeah.
The fact that they didn't find a way to get in the end zone not once, that's it's unacceptable, no doubt about it. So I agree with you on that. I expected more. I think we were all disappointed with that aspect of it. I will say this, I feel like we're kind of beating up on some Giants fans here with what happened after the game with Daniel Jones. I thought the fans were outstanding to start the game. They came ready to rock. They were fired up. It was a 1:00 game. It was gorgeous out.
After that fumble, it was incredible.
Yeah, it was so loud. A place where I remember I kind of looked out and I'm like, wow, this is the way it should be. It was deafening, and I definitely know that the players feel that. You feel that energy and that excitement. So they were super charged up, and it was great to see. And I'm like, man, this is what a professional football team and stadium should feel like. And then we just let the air out of the sails, and that was a byproduct of the poor play. So I don't blame the fans at all for that. And then quickly things unraveled, and then now they're booing them on their way into halftime, and and probably rightfully so. But I thought the fans came jazzed up, energized, and I'm with you on it hurts. It hurts when you're buying tickets. I think I had to buy 20 tickets. I had family and friends there too because we were celebrating the 100 players and the 100 season. So it stings a lot when you're that invested, and you walk out there man, what am I doing? So I think it's a legitimate concern. When you're talking about the Dallas Cowboys on a Thursday night, this place will be rocking. I don't know. I hope that we have more Giants fans in here than Cowboys fans. That has not been the case in the last couple of years. I go back to even last year, week 1, that debacle. We got blown out 40-0. That was awful start. It was so loud. There were so many Cowboy fans here. Let's buckle down and let's get that right. Now we got to win some games between now and then, and that's a little bit in the future. But it Thursday night, September 26th, I believe. That's going to be a big game. It's a short week. And, I know that the Giants will be ready to rock and roll, but Thursday night football, that's, look, as a player, when you know you're playing prime time, like you get a little bit amped up. You kind of crank it up a couple notches because you know that it's going to be an electric atmosphere. So let's take care of Washington first.
Right.
It'd be nice to be playing the Dallas Cowboys with an opportunity to get a second divisional win. But the way you do that is, all right, look, put your head down, go to work. Nobody's finger pointing in there. I think the one thing that you can say about Brian Dable is, man, he's got a great grasp and a great pulse for the locker room. There's some good players in there, good leaders in the locker room. I know Bobby Okereke, I thought he was outstanding after the game and just talking about the accountability factor. So they're going through all of that, and now they just got to go out and execute, make the plays, make the routine plays routine.
Exactly. Make the routine plays routine. You got a division opponent on deck. Week 2 is the game that not only is one that, the Giants want to get that taste out of their mouth after week 1. They want to get a win in the win column, a win in the division in the win column, which holds a little bit more weight, and a win against a team that they have had success against in the past, and Daniel Jones specifically has had success against in the past. What better way to turn the page than to just play another game Sunday?
Great
week 2.
opportunity, and I'll just say this too, Matt. I don't know how much time we have.
Yeah, we're wrapping it up, but go ahead.
Wrapping up. I used to love playing in Washington.
Really?
And here's why.
Why?
We take the train down.
Uh-huh.
So, there's just something kind of cool about taking the train down. You take the bus to Newark Penn Station, you get on the train, and it's just got a totally different vibe, different feel. And, you're going, it's a different route down there, but there's nothing better than that train ride home. The train ride home after a win, because unlike when you're on a plane, everybody kind of sits in their seat, you don't really, not a whole lot of conversation. Maybe a couple people are back in the alleyway and kind of get together. But when you're on a train, you kind of hang out.
Can walk around.
You hang out after a loss too, but it's better after a win. After a win, getting on that train and being able to kind of hang out and, pop a cold one if you happen to find one laying around. That's kind of where
a cold pop.
Yeah, a little cold Pepsi. That's kind of where, I feel like the synergy with the team, you can really grow a lot. So hopefully you get the win, and that train ride back after a victory is outstanding.
Yeah, it's definitely special. Having a chartered train and just, the whole squad going back, and we'll see how it goes. Sunday, 1 p.m. at Washington. Before we let you go, I want to remind you all that the Giants' official connected TV streaming app, Giants TV, brings original video content and game highlights on demand and direct to Big Blue fans. Giants TV is free on Apple TV, Roku, and Amazon Fire TV, and on the Giants mobile app. I want to thank all of our callers for calling in today. Shaun O'Hara, I'm Madelyn Burke. Thanks for listening to today's episode of Big Blue Kickoff Live, brought to you by Cadillac, part of the Giants podcast platform everywhere, and giants.com/podcast. We'll see you next time.